panel and the politics lead, but first, as Congress appears to slide closer to a potential government shutdown tomorrow, with members of both parties saying that they will reject a stopgap measure to keep the government open just another month, House Minority Whip Steny Hoyer, Democrat of Maryland, joins me now. And Congressman, thanks for joining me. I guess the big question for Democrats, is it worth shutting down the government if the Republican short-term government funding deal doesn't include provisions for the Dreamers?
Look, this is not solely about the Dreamers. The Republicans have had 120 days plus. We overwhelmingly, but matter of fact, every Democrat voted for a 90-day extension in September to give us time to reach an agreement on some of the important issues, the most important of which was working funding caps so that we would know how much we were going to spend in the coming year. We asked for the same deal that Paul Ryan made with Senator Murray for 4 years running, and we still have not had that agreement. So we're asking for an additional time, but the Republicans have not done anything in the time that to them to get to the issues that we need to follow, including, for instance, in this bill, we've had a major disaster in two states and the Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. There's no supplemental relief here. We don't have community health centers included in this bill. Yes, they include SCHIP, but a lot of the CHIP children go to community health centers, and they're not funded in this bill. So there are a lot of things that the Republicans have not done that we're saying, look, don't ask us to vote for just kicking the can down the road when you don't address in the time we give you any kind of compromises which will get a majority of votes in the House of Representatives.
Okay, but this bill would fund the government through February, and they include measures to directly try to appeal to you and Democrats in the House and Senate, including, as you note, 6 years of funding for children's health insurance, as well as provisions to delay some unpopular Obamacare taxes. You could do all that, keep the government open, use the next month to negotiate everything you're talking about, plus help the Dreamers. Aren't you worried about that? About funding, voting against funding CHIP?
I don't know that this bill helps the Dreamers. I'm not sure where you get to that on.
No, you could negotiate in the ensuing months.
Well, of course, we could have negotiated for the last 90 days, last 120 days, Jake. We haven't done that. They're just asking to kick the can down the road again. They have not said they're going to negotiate with us. They have not said what any of the agreements that we think are necessary to move forward will be. So that they're just saying, look, we haven't been able to do our work, we Republicans. We haven't passed a single appropriation bill and sent it to the President. We haven't set caps for 2018 spending. We're a third of the way into 2018. The Republicans have a responsibility to say, look, here are the funding levels. We did that when we were in the majority. They need to do that as well. Very frankly, they have the votes to keep government open. All they have to do is cast those votes. You need 218 votes. They have 241 votes. Exercise your responsibility as the majority, as the people who have been given the responsibility by the American people to run this House. Don't look to us to just kick the can down the road without any agreements from you on the priorities that we think are important. We think SCHIP is important, by the way. Paul Ryan said he would not put non-controversial bills in with controversial bills. That's exactly what he's doing today. We're all for CHIP. We're going to have an opportunity to vote on making CHIP go forward on its own.
Right.
We Democrats are going to vote for that. We're for CHIP. We ought to do that. So, I told the majority leader 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, when he put a partisan CHIP bill through the House, I said, Mr. McCarthy, that's not going to work. Let's come together and reach agreement. We didn't do it. Now they can move it because OMB has made it much easier to do in terms of paying for it. But we want to see that bill pass. It could pass on suspension this afternoon.
So let me just ask you and show you, first of all, how Republicans like House Speaker Paul Ryan are describing the Democrats' stance. Take a listen.
Look at the states are going to be shutting down CHIP in days. Alabama, Connecticut, Kentucky, Louisiana, Oregon, Virginia, Washington State. These are states that are running out of CHIP money if we don't get this thing passed, and I can't imagine why somebody would want to vote against doing that.
Isn't it possible that voters might punish Democrats in the midterms if these programs shut down because you vote against this government funding bill?
Look, this is the crowd that shut down government for 16 days purposefully if we didn't repeal the Affordable Care Act. Paul Ryan didn't put this bill on the floor, S-chip, that he talks being so concerned about, until long after the authorization had run out in September. Paul Ryan put a partisan bill on the floor, knowing full well that it would not pass the Senate, and it didn't pass the Senate. Paul Ryan knows that he can put the S-chip bill on the floor this afternoon, and it will pass probably unanimously, and certainly will get every Democratic vote. Paul Ryan is trying to blackmail the Democratic Party into doing what he wants without, in fact, coming to agreements that are necessary to move this country forward. I think it's pretty disingenuous, and I'm disappointed with the Speaker.
All right, Democratic Whip Steny Hoyer, thanks so much for joining me. Good to see you as always, sir. Breaking news just in about the testimony of one of President Trump's closest confidants, Hope Hicks, and the Russia investigation. We're going to bring that to you right after this quick break. Stay with us.